a crew member or the captain or someone got a hold of the mask, and it attached itself to them. They became a vampire, and they started slaughtering everybody. Slaughtered Zeppeli's father, slaughtered so many members of the crew. Zeppeli, he had jumped into the water to try to get away, but the vampire's like, where the fuck are you going? And started swimming after him. He's like, oh! As this vampire's coming at you in the water. That's a cool fucking scenario. I like the idea of just someone like trying to swim away and the vampire's like, where are you going? So he's trying to get him. Let's go ahead and move on to my review for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Episode 4. To give you a recap of the previous episode, JoJo got into a huge battle, Chad, of life and death with his brother, with his adopted brother, Dio. Dio used the stone mask on himself to transform himself into a vampire before he died, Chad, and he proceeded to kill all these police officers. He injured Speedwagon, Chad, broke his arm, and he also killed JoJo's dad, Chad, Lord Joestar. Now, Lord Joestar, we have to admit, was an idiot, chat, but at least he did one good thing at the end, which was to save his son, Jonathan, right? This dying breath, he told him not to hate Dio, but Dio, I'm sorry, Chad, it's very easy to hate Dio, because Dio's an asshole. Dio's a son of a bitch, and during the course of that episode, a huge fire was started inside the mansion. The whole mansion started burning up, and JoJo and Dio were just locked in this incredible struggle, but JoJo has seemingly been able to vanquish Dio, who died in the fire, but JoJo was critically injured, chat, and he was being lovingly held by Speedwagon, who was crying over his body, chat, but some time has now passed, and JoJo, he survived the events of the previous episode, chat. It would have been a very bizarre adventure, most certainly, but a very short bizarre adventure if he died. But no, he survived, and he is at a hospital right now, and I guess it's been some time afterwards, a few days or something, and Speedwagon is going to the hospital to visit JoJo. He wants to, pick up his spirits despite, his dad dying and his adopted brother, betraying him and his mansion burning down. Lots happened, so he's like, you know what, I'm gonna go cheer up my new friend. And I was like, JoJo needs a friend right now, Chad, because he's all alone. He's all alone in this world. But Speedwagon, he goes, and he's going to the room, and he notices, Chad, there's a light on in the room. He's like, I didn't know JoJo had any guests. Hopefully none of his enemies have come to kill him or something. Perhaps it's Dio. Oh, no. And so he goes up to the door, and he looks inside, he doesn't open it, and he sees a young woman, chat. He sees a buxom blonde attending to JoJo's wounds. He can tell that she's been attending to him for quite some time because he suffered some burns in his battle, which I didn't notice he had any burns on him, chat, but apparently he got some burns, which you would. Falling like 1,000 stories into a fiery inferno. But, he was so swole, didn't get hurt too bad. But still, he got burned. And so you have this buxom blonde lass, and she's taking these pieces of cloth, and then she wets them, and she puts them on her body, trying to cool down the burns. And Speedwagon, he realized, because he apparently laser focuses on certain details, and he sees things that other people might miss. And he notices that her fingertips very pruned, Chad. So he surmises that she's been going at this for hours and hours and hours, just addressing his wounds, cooling him down, so it just doesn't feel like his skin, his entire body is constantly on fire. But eventually, JoJo, he's like, he comes to, because he can feel the cool, wet cloth on his swole form. He opens his eyes, and who does he see, Chad? He sees the woman of his dreams, the girl that he lost all those years ago, Chad. Arena. It's Arena Pendleton who's been taking care of him, and he's like, oh my God, are you a nurse? She's like, yes, I am. I've been attending to your wounds for quite some time. He's like, you remind me of this beautiful woman that I knew, that I fell in love with. She's like, yes, I am that beautiful woman that you knew and fell in love with. I'm Arena. And he's like, oh my God, Arena. And so it's kind of crazy that apparently they had not been in contact with each other for 7 or 8 years. I was kind of blown away by that. So I guess ever since Dio sexually assaulted her, and when JoJo saw her that day, oh, hi, Arena, and she ran away, he never tried to contact her again after that, which is kind of weird. That was oh shit, really? He never even after everything of Dio didn't go to see her, just hey, what happened? But apparently not. Apparently not. It's oh shit. And it was so funny. Speedwagon, He's seeing all this. He's going, oh my God, true love, it blossoms again. He's so over exaggerated. But at this point, JoJo's is like, I always wanted to see you again, but I never took the opportunity to do so. My apologies. Like, it's okay. Don't worry about it. We can pick up where we left off all those years ago. And they're like, yay! And Speedwagon's like, he is now in the embrace of a loving, buxom, blonde broad. And the last thing I want to do is interrupt that. And Speedwagon, he retreats. He's like, I will see you some other day, my friend. That's what I will do. But meanwhile, chat, hard fucking cut. Hard cut as Speedwagon leaves the hospital. We cut to a different area within London, chat. And we come upon a murder, and it's Jack the Ripper. Because they like showed in like episode 2 that this is the time period of Jack the Ripper, and Jack's been like murdering all these people, and he is mid-murder of this young woman who he's cornering this alleyway or just in the street and just stabbing her. He's like, I love it. I love carving the meat. But then all of a sudden, chat, he hears a voice behind him. He's like, so you are Jack the Ripper. You'll make a fine addition to my arm. And he turns around, he goes, what? And we see this old, just gross-looking muty man, chat. He's like, it's this hooded figure, but he's all like bent and broken, and is like, who is that? And he's like, come closer. He's like mesmerizing him. He's hypnotizing him. And Jack the Ripper, he approaches him and he kneels down, and this hooded figure goes, bah! And he shoves his hand inside the guy's face like this, and he starts sucking out all of his goop. He starts sucking all that Jack goop, chat, and he's turning Jack the Ripper not into a vampire, chat, but into a zombie. And it's like, who the hell is this, chat? Who could this be? Did Dio survive the fire? Is he now this decrepit, disgusting-looking creature that is just preying upon the citizens of London? You'll find out in just a bit. But we cut from that horrific scene, and Jojo and Arena, they're pretty much just surveying what's left of the mansion. It's completely burned down. Only a shell of its former self. Some of the brickwork, some of the stonework is still up, but the mansion's completely destroyed for the most part. Maybe with the exception of the frame. But the thing that he's most concerned about, he can care less about the mansion. He's a little sad that his childhood home burned down with his family in it, which was his father. But the thing that he wants to find is the mask, the stone mask, because he knows that is very dangerous. And it's what gave Dio his power, but he can't find it anywhere. And he's just hoping that it was destroyed as the mansion collapsed in on itself. It's the only thing that he can hope for at this point until they clean more of the debris. He's also still injured, though. He's like, his arm is broken, still heavily burned. He requires a cane to walk at this moment. And Arena's like, come here, Jojo, let's go for a nice walk. Let's take in, like, I know this is very sad for you and incredibly emotional, but let's think of the future. He's like, it's a good idea. And so they end up taking this walk near the property, and they cross over this bridge, and they see this strange man who occasionally pops up. Like, Jojo looks over his shoulder, and he always disappears behind a bush. He's like, who is that guy? And him and Arena turn around. He's just sitting on top of the bridge. He's eating a sandwich. He's putting a shit ton of pepper on this sandwich, and he introduces himself. He's like, are you Jonathan Joestar? He's like, yes. Who are you, sir, and why have you been tracking us? What are your intentions? And he's like, my name is Will Antonio Zeppeli. I believe that's his name. He says, my name is Will Antonio Zeppeli, and I will punch you. And he punches Jojo. He punches Jojo with his pinky, and he goes, ah! And he fingers him. He fingers him so hard. She's like, ah! That it causes the bandages on his arm to just explode off of him and chat. And he's like, oh, he's bent over, and Rita's like, oh my God, what are you doing? But it's okay. He's like, observe, buxom blonde broad, observe. And after he removes his pinky from Jojo's abdomen, after all that fingering, chat, Jojo suddenly, his arm starts contorting and just moving around, just looks like floppy spaghetti. And then, boom, suddenly it's healed. It's perfectly healed. And he's like, oh my God, there's almost no pain. It feels so swollen. Zeppeli's like, yes, I have used ripple energy on your arm. And Jojo's like, what the hell is ripple energy? He's like, I will show you the ways of ripple energy, Jojo, because you need to be able to use it, because there's much evil in this world, and it revolves around that mask, which I knew was in your family's possession, in the possession of Dio Brando. And he's like, oh fuck, you know who Dio is? Indeed I do. He's like, and you will observe ripple energy. And he's like, okay, cool, I guess. And so this guy's just like, he hops over the bridge into the water. It's like about knee high, you know, and he notices like there's just this frog vibing. This frog's just vibing on this little rock, this boulder, and he's like, I will hit this frog with ripple energy. It's like, that's gonna just explode the frog. And Arena's like, no, don't do it. It's just a little frog. Leave it alone. But Zeppeli's like, I don't give a shit. And he powers up, and boom. He hits the frog in the tuchus shed, and the frog's like, but it's okay. The frog's fine, because the ripple energy, it just goes right through the frog, and it cracks the boulder perfectly, Chad, as if it just has been like sliced by a sword all the way through. It's like a hot knife through butter. It's like, whoa, that's pretty badass. And the frog just happily, just jumps away in the water. And Jojo's like, how were you able to do that? And he's like, and this is a technique that I learned years ago, and has saved my life and has helped me in my quest to find and destroy that stone mask. He's like, how do you know about the stone mask? He's like, my father also sought this mask years ago. And he's like, let me tell you my backstory. And so we get a flashback. Apparently, good old Will Antonio Zeppeli chap. He was the son of a very famous anthropologist and archaeologist, and they had explored ancient pyramids and temples in South America. And his father had come upon the mask that we've been seeing throughout the show. But apparently, at some point during their journey back home, when they were on this ship, very similar to that chapter in Bram Stoker's Dracula, where where Dracula's being transported from Transylvania, Wallachia, all the way to London. He starts preying on the crew, but apparently a crew member or the captain or someone got a hold of the mask, and it attached itself to them. They became a vampire, and they started slaughtering everybody. Slaughtered Zeppeli's father, slaughtered so many members of the crew. Zeppeli, he had jumped into the water to try to get away, but the vampire's like, where the fuck are you going? And started swimming after him. He's like, oh! As this vampire's coming at you in the water. That's a cool fucking scenario. I like the idea of just someone like trying to swim away, and the vampire's like, where are you going? So he's trying to get him, got on top of him, and he's like grabbing a hold of him, but he was able to somehow stave off the attack of the vampire, Chad, apparently using the inverse of the magic or the energy of the mask, which is the power of, which is ripple energy, apparently. It's like, okay, cool. And so right before the vampire's like trying to attack him or drain him of his sweet delicious plasma, the sun comes up and it kills him. And Zeppeli, who then survived, realized okay, well, wherever that ship eventually is going to go, I'm going to have to find it and destroy that mask. But it was lost at sea. But somehow the mask apparently made it it was in the possession of various different people for some period of time, Herman, the vampires, until eventually it was in the possession of the Jojo'S family, and that's then eventually Dio found it, of course. And he's like, and Zeppeli has completely dedicated his life to destroying the mask, and he learned that the Jojo'S had it, but he also learned of Dio and all this horrible stuff. And he's like, listen, you're gonna have to train even more, Jojo, because this is far from over. Dio, I believe Dio is still alive. And Jojo's like, no, I saw him die. He's like, I believe he's alive, because if he wasn't alive, then the mask would still be at the mansion now. He's like, no. It's like, oh, that's not good. Speaking of Dio, chat, we cut to Dio. He is still alive, and he was that gross guy. He was that gross guy that was being carted around. He's the one that sucked out all of Jack the Ripper's goop and turned him into a zombie. It's like, well, that ain't good. That's not good. And Dio he's been a busy boy. He's been snacking, chat. He's been hangry for quite a while, because he is now set up shop at this abandoned mansion at the edge of town, and he's just been converting people into like zombie vampires. And he's like, and now he's getting like, now I'm sexy again. He's not like gross and like, he's sexy again. He's moving around. He's got a strut and everything. But we just see him draining like this one like young woman, this blonde woman, just sucking out all of her blood and meat from her face, and he just starts just like squeezing her face so hard that her eyeballs like burst out of her socket. It's like, I forget sometimes how violent. This show will be like pretty goofy, pretty funny, like, you know, whatever. And even like the action scenes, they'll be, you know, almost comedic in nature, but then they'll just have like some really disturbing violence, like kind of intermixed with it. And you just watch this poor woman as she's just screaming as her eyeballs just burst from her skull, and he crushes the rest of her face until I'm hoping she's dead. I hope she died. I hope she's not like breathing through like her broken face, but man, that was rough. And we just see him surrounded by all these vampires and Jack the Ripper and stuff, and just, I will conquer this world. This world will feel the wrath of Dio. And I believe them, Chad. I mean, she certainly felt that wrath. Eventually, though, we cut back to JoJo and Zeppeli, and Zeppeli's been training JoJo for about a week in the use of ripple energy, right? He's been training like to show how ripple energy, like it has like almost like a physical effect around the user, and so they train in water, and we see all the ripples coming off of Zeppeli, and JoJo's just been trying to master it. He hasn't, wrapped his head around it completely, but he's getting better. But the training session is interrupted because Speedwagon, he's come back. He's come to the mansion because he has to tell JoJo something very important. He's like, according to his sources, his agents that are on the streets, they've managed to figure out that Dio is in an abandoned mansion on the outskirts of the city. And they're like, fuck, let's go and get him right fucking now. They're like, hell yeah, let's go. And so they get in this carriage. It's JoJo, it's Zeppeli, and it's Speedwagon, right? And we gotta go. And so they get the driver going, and they head. And apparently, the only way to get to the edge of town is through this very long subterranean tunnel that goes for miles and miles in complete darkness. And I'm just like, I'm sure there are no vampires waiting for them in that tunnel. Of course not. It would be too obvious, but they're traveling through this tunnel, and JoJo, his mind, it goes back to Arena, and he wishes, that he would have said goodbye to her before this mission. They don't have a lot of communication, those two. But he's like, he's thinking about her and stuff. But suddenly the carriage just violently stops. It violently stops. I'm like, what the hell's going on? And Speedwagon's like, don't worry, boys, I'll go outside and check. And so he goes outside and checks, chat, and he sees that horses, their heads have all been cut off. Just ripped off their bodies. And he notices that the driver is sitting there just on on his seat with one of the horse's heads just skewered onto his body like this. And he just kind of flops over, and his head's all mangled and stuff, and the horse's head falls up, and it's like, oh my God! And then, he's screaming like, the driver's dead, the horses have been killed. And then JoJo comes out along with Zeppeli, and then we get to just the scariest fucking image so far in this episode, chat, because one of the horse's body, which is still standing upright like this, starts just shaking around, and they start looking at the next step, and it looks like something's being born out of the horse's neck stump, and we just see this face just comes out of it and just stares at them, and it's Jack the Ripper, chat. Jack the Ripper has somehow inserted himself inside the horse. I don't know which way he went up it. Did he go up its butt? Did he go through the neck stump? I don't know, but he just kind of slithers out of it. He just flops out of it. He's like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. I'm gonna feast on your bodies. They're like, holy shit. And like, we gotta fight this guy. And Zeppeli, this entire time, he's just been drinking like his wine, and he's like, don't worry, boys, I'm gonna take care of this. I'm gonna show you the power of ripple energy. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And so Jack the Ripper, he goes to attack Zeppeli, right? Goes to attack Zeppeli, but while Jack the Ripper goes to hit him in the face or scratch him and just eviscerate him and stuff, Zeppeli ends up using his ripple energy to basically punch Jack the Ripper in the face, and he just makes half his face get mush. It just it kind of like deflates. It's like almost as if a pin like hitting a balloon and goes and he gets all like super derpy. He's like, what the fuck? He's like, I've used the power of ripple energy, and now you have mush face. He's like, no, and he freaks the fuck out. Not happy about that whatsoever. He also ends up closing the tunnel too. He grabs the carriage and throws it at the other end, so they're all like trapped in there. But after that, he gets his face smushed and he retreats. He is like, I will feast upon you. You won't see me coming. And he flips this switch that's on the ceiling, and he goes into one. I don't know how they've managed to set that up, but they have a hit. Apparently, they get the vampire boys and girls. They've been busy, and they've somehow set up a secret tunnel system in this entire labyrinth, right? And, Jojo's like, what are we going to do? And Spinelli's like, I know what you're going to do. You're going to do this here. And he pours him some wine, and he's like, you're going to make use of your ripple energy to take care of this guy. Jojo's like, I don't think I've practiced enough. He's like, listen, I think you're ready. He's not a full vampire. He's just a fucking zombie, man. Okay. He's merely an acolyte of Dio, the vampire lord. You can handle this. And the thing is, listen, when you're killing him, not a single drop of that wine will spill, because if a single drop of that wine will spill, I'll leave you. You're not, then like everything I taught you is for naught. If you've mastered ripple energy, then not a single drop will spill. And Jojo's like, okay, sure. And so Speedwagon and Zeppeli, they stay behind, while Jojo, he goes into the labyrinth. He's got a torch. He's holding the one cup of wine with his other free hand. He goes in there. I don't know why they would build this place, this tunnel system that just has all sorts of different twists and turns and things. Like, who the hell's living here? But you go. He continues into the labyrinth, trying to find the vampire, but it's like it's just huge. It feels like a maze almost. But then suddenly, Chad, he feels like this whoosh. He suddenly feels like this gust of air, and we see Jack the Ripper, the zombie vampire, and he has this, what I would describe as this giant ornate hairpin. It's like, the thing that girls wear in their hair, the claw, you know what I'm talking about, Chad? Like they have a lot of hair, they put it up and they go boop, and they put that like giant, that's what he has. It was like, that's a weird fucking weapon. And so he's like, I'll eat you, and Jojo manages to dodge him, like, oh shit, and like also make sure not to spill any of the wine, right? And I was like, that was a really weird fucking attack, and it does hit his arm though. It does like cut up his arm and shit, but Jojo is careful enough not to spill a single drop of that wine. And Jack the Ripper, he hides behind like this one wall as Jojo is getting closer and closer and closer, and Jack the Ripper is just like, I'll fucking kill you. I'll skewer with this, and I'll suck out your meat. It'll be delicious, wonderful Jojo meat. It's like, yummy. And Jojo, he's like, I don't know if I'm ready for this, but he notices the ripple in the water. He's like, oh my God, it's my ripple energy. And he figures out, apparently, Chat, the ripple energy detects when other living life forms are nearby. That's what it is. And he's like, oh, he's like, so he must be nearby. He notices like the ripple in the water is pointing towards this wall. He's like, he must be behind this wall. And then I will use my ripple energy to punch the wall. And he goes, ah! And he punches the wall. And like Jack the Ripper's like, I can't wait to hit him. And then the energy goes through the wall and it hits Jack the Ripper's body. And his body just starts twisting in on itself, wrapping around. His limbs start all cracking. He implodes and explodes, Chad. Like his face turns on itself and goes, and just explodes like Deacon Frost from Blade, like everywhere. It's like, Jesus. And, Jojo, he sees just the mess. He's like, oh my God, it worked. I did it. Zeppeli, I did it. And Zeppeli and Speedwagon are like, yeah, we knew you could do it, Jojo. We knew you could master ripple energy, and soon you will use it on Dio and his army of zombie vampires. And that, my friends, is my review, my spoiler review, my scene by scene breakdown, chat, to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Episode 4. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a haircut, my dear. Whatever. No, thank you. You're right. It's a hair clip. It's a hair clip. You're correct. It was very, very weird weapon to use. Very weird weapon to use. Are you watching the subbed or dubbed? I'm watching the subtitled version. They call it something else in the subtitled version, but then I was doing like my research, like, what is this energy called? And they started calling it like ripple energy. I thought that was a little easier for me to remember, because in the sub version they call it like Hamon energy or something. But what I've been doing is I've been kind of going over the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure wiki to kind of like, let me make sure to like keep track of all the, different names, kind of the plot, the general structure, right? But yeah, they call it like the Hanum energy or whatever. But on the wiki they call it Ripple. I'm like, Ripple is easy for me to remember, so that's probably what I'm gonna call it. Hamon energy. Hamon. Thank you for the correction. Hamon either works. Yeah. I think it just Ripple just a little easier for me to remember. But I'll probably go back and forth throughout my reviews of these episodes in the future. Oh, man. But I hope you liked it, Chad. Hope you liked my review for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Dio, he's fucking alive again. God damn, I thought that would be the end of him, chap, but I guess not. I guess I didn't even know it looked like he got burned away, like he was burned alive. He turned to ash, but I guess he got better. I guess he got better, Chad. Must have been what it is. But you know what, Chad? Before we go ahead and jump into our watch party tonight for Maniac Cop, which we're going to do via the Discord, we could do like some rounds of Murder Trivia Party. That just came out. So we were playing that the other day. That was pretty fun. So yeah, let's do like a round or two of Murder Triv, and then we'll get into Maniac Cop. Dio's too fat was I? Apparently so. He's a great villain so far. I love just how over the top he is. He's a sumbitch too. Nasty sumbitch.